Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. The second English studio breakfast, and if you've seen this channel, you know this man, Nick, mastering engineer and a long-time employee on the team.
Yeah, we started the German studio breakfast like 2 years ago.
We did it in German for a long time, and we will keep doing German stuff, but let's do something in English. And we're trying to do this every day. Let's see how far we come. And for whatever reason, and you might be able to explain this, you asked me for to give you some tips for a good podcast you want to listen to.
Actually, like 2 days ago, I was asking for advice. I was like getting new podcasts to sub to, and I just wanted to know, because you are listening to podcasts like almost every day.
I do, and that's mainly because I have a long commute, over an hour every morning, every evening, and I actually enjoy this time. I'm on trains and I wear my little earbuds, the AirPods from Apple, which work very well, and I have subscribed to, I don't know, probably over 100 podcasts. I'm not listening to all of them. I did some research a year ago. I did some podcasts about some shows about how to do a podcast, and my main question is, what type of shows are you looking for?
I was thinking, basically, if the podcast is good, you can listen to almost anything, because it's just fun. For me, I was looking first for like audio stuff, obviously. Then maybe like some business advice, some maybe like business motivational stuff, and then
of
whatever
course, somewhere I know on your mind you have that whenever you will maybe start your own studio, you're thinking about how going forward, how's my future look like? Do I start my own business? And there's always you can't start early enough to think in these terms.
Exactly.
And I have a long list here, so I don't have categories, but pretty much at the top of the list is a podcast called the Six Figure Home Studio, home recording, whatever.
I've never heard about it, but
the Six Figure Home Studio, 2 guys.
David.
One of the guys is an established mix engineer. I don't know too much about the guys, but I do enjoy listening to them. It's not I don't listen to all of these, but when I listen to them, it's solid advice. They talked about stuff recently, like having a customer management system, a digital one, where, when somebody asked for a mastering or mixing gig, that you make sure your system reminds you to follow up on everything. So they have some really good advice for running an audio business.
Nice. And you said you don't listen to every episode, so you just like scroll through, and then if the title is interesting, you...
Sometimes I have my favorites that are a priority for me, and that's mainly the Gary V audio experience. This guy, I like him. Everything he says and does, you can learn from. He's an inspiration. He motivates, and I like. It's a wake up call in the morning. When you leave the house, and you didn't even have your first coffee. He's just full of energy. I love his stuff and learn a lot.
And you arrive inspired at the studio.
Yeah, on fire. I'm on
ready
fire.
to rock.
So Gary V's audio experience, that's my number one. But that's a very, very personal thing. Let's just go through these Six Figure Home Studio podcast. I very much enjoy. Then there's 2 podcasts. One is called Manager Tools and the other one is called Career Tools. The Manager Tool.
Same guy?
It's 2 guys. They're a consulting company. I've been following them forever. They've been there has been a first wave of podcasts around 2005-06 when Apple included podcasts in iTunes, and there was an early adopter first wave. Podcast
I remember that time because I was getting an iPod. I was a little guy then, and I was getting an iPod, and I was wondering
what's podcast?
What's podcast? This category.
And it worked in a way that you had it at home, connected to the Wi-Fi or even to the iTunes software. I don't know. Early days. It's 15 years ago. So
I think you had to download it on your computer and then sync it to
bring
your
it
iPod.
over, something like that. Yeah.
Oh my God!
So there's manager tools and career tools. They've been around for, I would say, at least 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
I like them. They're both good. Manager tools is for people who have teams, who manage teams.
Yep.
Just solid tips like the one-on-one meetings that we used to do a lot, and sometimes we should do them more, but this is something I got from them. And there's another one called Career Tools, which is not limited to managers. As a manager, you can listen to them, but they give you solid advice around finding a new job, searching for a job.
A little bit more personal.
Yeah, but also general things like building your network. But from a very professional point of view, these two guys, they are now, I mean, they built the business through the podcast. They're now really high-level consultants, consulting Apple, Google, and they're at the top of their game, I believe. I haven't looked at their income or bank account, but they're top-notch. They have a military background, so it's like very disciplined, strict. But
wake up at 4:30 in the morning.
I don't know. There's something about people with a military background as far as discipline and measuring performance and things like that. At the same time, they very much know that you work with people, and people are people, and they're not perfect. They had this one episode where they were measuring how much people actually work. Like you work from 9 to 5, but then you have a coffee, you do this and that, you have a chat with a colleague, you look at your phone, and
1 hour lunch break or something.
They had people measuring the effective amount of time they would actually work at the military. Had the team come in, and the team at the end of the day said, and this was like a really high level job.
Okay.
And the team
really hard-working people.
The team said that were measuring the effectiveness that you're at 60%. You actually work what you say you work.
60% of the time.
And they said,
wow, okay.
And they said, oh my God, that sounds really bad. And they said, oh, that's top notch.
No way.
That's you're at the top of all industries.
So 60%.
60%. The rest of the day you just.
So out of 10 hours, you only work
watch cat
6.
The rest is watching cat videos, Instagram.
Yeah, whatever.
Who knows what, you know.
Staring at the sky. Okay, that sounds pretty interesting. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, manager tools and career tools. So let's go further down the list, see what pops up. Here's a German show. Facebook has a show, it's called Das Facebook Marketing Update. I like to listen to it just to see what the German Facebook team is up to and to know what's the mothership doing and talking about. I don't like it too much. They have interesting people on there, but you can see that the Germans are not the mothership. They're just the Germans. I do listen to that just to see what's going on at Facebook and what's a bit strange. Here's an interesting one for a change for the 40% of the 100% at work. It's called, if I say it, then Facebook is beeping out the whole. Okay, let's skip that. It's called Guys, We Fucked.
Okay. Damn.
But it's good.
Yeah?
It's good.
Nice.
It's not what it sounds like. It's a really good show. 2 female comedians. I listen. Not all the time, but you know, when you have so many podcasts, sometimes at the end of the podcast you wanted to listen, it randomly goes to some podcast.
Okay.
And sometimes I'm like, oh, you know, I know it's only 3 minutes until I walk into the studio, and then I don't want to start a new podcast. So I listen to 3 minutes of some random thing. And sometimes it's like, oh, what's this?
And then
I look it up, and then maybe I'm sub to all of these, but I'm using the Apple Podcast app to listen to, which I'm not sure if it's the best option. I think Spotify might be the better app to listen to podcasts, and most of these would be on Spotify as well. And I think it's also because of Spotify that podcast is such a big thing at the moment.
Yeah. Just another question.
Yes.
When you release a podcast, then you release through a distributor, and so all platforms get provided with your podcast, or how does it work?
When somebody listens to your podcast, they get it from your server all the time.
Okay.
And Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, which is pretty new for Android, or Spotify, they basically provide the people with the link.
Okay.
They basically kind of marketing your link, but it's always your server.
And you have to decide. You go to Apple, to Spotify, to.
They're basically Apple, Spotify, Google. They're basically just a platform for finding what you like. Because if you're not on there, how would somebody find your podcast? But once they're subscribed, Apple Podcasts provides you with our direct server link.
Okay.
So you're not. It doesn't go through Apple, actually.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They can measure how long people listen and the whatever they, I don't know, there's some analytics. I don't have access to them yet, but anyway, let's keep going. Masters of Scale with Reid Hoffman. I think it's worth mentioning because it has the highest production value of any podcast I've ever. I'm pretty sure they take 2 weeks to produce one podcast.
Oh,
They're mixing their podcast like somebody else mixes a 3-minute pop song.
They
have sound effects. They have little harmonizer effects, noises like a dog is barking, whatever, car noise, 3D.
Like a bar of Insta buttons, and then.
Yeah, but it's worth listening, and they have good guests. They do shows about like really the top of the top in Silicon Valley, Mark Zuckerberg and whoever. So. And for an audio guide's entry, I'm sure they have hired a full team to produce this. Sound effects people, and it's the highest production value. Masters of Scale with Reid Hoffman. That's why it's worth mentioning. I mean, there's lots of stuff from some creative YouTubers I listen to. Let's go through. Here's a good one.
Yeah.
Mixed by Marc Mozart.
Oh.
So we do.
I heard about this guy.
Yeah, what we're doing right now will be a podcast.
Okay.
We have just search in your podcast app for Marc Mozart, and you'll find a German one and an English one. Nice. And they're now on Spotify as well. They have not been on there for a long time for whatever reasons behind the scenes that we had no control over. But they're now on Spotify, and I'm very happy about it. There's this company, German company in Hamburg, OMR, Online Marketing Rockstars. Have you heard of them?
No.
They do events, they do big show in Hamburg where they even invited Gary Vee once and speeches, and the event is pretty expensive. They also do courses about Instagram marketing, Facebook, everything, Google. Prices are okay if you corporate, expensive for a private person. I think they do really good content. It's German most of the times, but they do English shows as well, around mainly guests from the startup scene, German startup scene, like the people who financed the whole HelloFresh, for example, they had on their show. Pretty interesting. I think it's good to look at where's the new economy heading and what's happening, not just in Silicon Valley, but it's stuff happening in Germany. Not much, but enough. There's a bunch of people that are doing good stuff.
Nice. It's interesting because like someone who's watching would maybe think like you're listening to 100 different audio podcasts, but actually
there are a bunch.
There are a bunch, but the ones you're mentioning are almost all like business related and some sort of this stuff. And I think that's pretty interesting.
The way I'm listening to podcasts is they're like overlaying my reality. So I listen to something and might be completely not related to what I'm doing, but I'm in the morning when I'm going to work, I'm thinking about what we're doing here and how we want to develop it, and I'm trying to learn lessons that I can apply. So it's my reality is overlaying with what I'm listening on the podcast, and
I think that's important because you're not.
I get outside inspiration from the podcast.
You're actually, you're not consuming because you're trying to learn from the podcast. So you listen to stuff you don't know nothing about.
Somebody gives an advice or has an experience. I think it's similar. I mean, I'm mainly into reading how-to books or listening to how-to audiobooks. I'm such a how-to guy when it comes to consuming stuff.
Yeah.
My wife, for example, likes to read novels and autobiographies. Different types of readers or listeners, but I think with an autobiography, it's the same thing. You're overlaying the experience of some famous person to your own life, and you're trying to learn that way. Some people are maybe, I don't know, more romantic, learning from autobiographies or novels, and I'm the how-to guy, tell me what to do, and I'll do it.
Nice, yeah.
So that's that. Here's another interesting German one. On the Way to New Work, it's called. It's German, has an English title. These are two guys with an advertising background from Springer and Jacobi, big advertising agencies. They also have their own digital advertising agency. It's sometimes very philosophical. They talk about new concepts like, they just talk about the new reality where it's so much different than 50 years ago at work, where you have to be creative, you have to come up, you have to sometimes invent the work you're getting paid for. So this is an interesting one. Then here's 1:37 p.m. I would say it's a lifestyle podcast.
Okay.
It's basically out of the Gary Vee group of companies. So he's not directly producing this podcast. He has a team, but it's basically a lifestyle podcast for young men. They talk about entrepreneurship, sneakers, basketball.
Nice.
Pretty cool.
Okay.
They would need to talk about football and Schalke to be my favorite, but it's good. It's good. I think I think you don't have a long commute, so when I'm at home working from at home for a couple days, I need to catch up with all of the stuff. So I don't know. I don't listen to podcasts when I'm at home. It's not the thing that I do. You could run around at home, listen, but then I probably work on something and not listen.
I'm listening to podcasts mainly in the car.
And you do have some longer car trips sometimes.
Sometimes, but obviously when I drive, then I have like...
And then when the girlfriend is in the car, it's probably music.
Yeah, exactly. or we talk, so that,
but alone in the car is a good...
Yeah, but obviously when...
And that's like a big factor for podcasts becoming big, because I don't know how your car is equipped, but the phone connects mainly to the car stereo, and then you listen on your phone through the car speakers.
Exactly. But actually, I got into the habit of drinking my coffee in the morning and listening to one podcast.
Drinking in the morning and then
drinking in the morning, podcast, and then the coffee.
Driving, then driving.
And then driving.
Okay. Oprah Winfrey, nicht Oprah. Oprah Winfrey, we all know her, has a podcast called Masterclass.
Okay.
High production value. Interesting stories, like I heard Justin Timberlake one where they went way back into his childhood, how this whole thing started, and interesting people, not your typical podcast, so might be worth listening to. Pensado's Place, it's a weird one because it's listed as a video podcast, but I can listen to audio. Problem is sometimes I'm already on the road, I want to download it, and it says the file is too big to download on mobile.
Because it's video.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't listen or watch his show too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think as far as the media value companies pay to be advertised on his podcast, he's way too expensive because he had been the first one and they make good money with the podcast. But when I ask around, nobody's really consuming it.
Is the audio podcast a cut version of the video?
It's the full thing. Always.
The full thing.
I do like him,
Mm-hmm.
but they overdo it with the advertisements.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I do like him, but because of the advertisements,
that's a bad sign.
This shit sucks. Sorry. And they have Phineas on there, Billie Eilish brother and producer. Definitely want to watch those shows, but couldn't download it yet. So I'll probably jump to YouTube if I do Pensado. Mm-hmm. And I love the guy. Pensado is such an all-time hero, I think. Even when it comes to education but I don't know. There's next. Bunch of political shit.
Okay.
From America, I don't like and listen to. That's just they're arguing all day.
Yeah,
the left and the right.
There's a lot to talk about, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
That's a bit some German football stuff. Schlusskonferenz, der Rasenfunk. I think that's funny for English people too. Fußball. Schlusskonferenz. Rasenfunk.
That's you the stereotype German.
You guys will like
right
this.
Here, yeah.
Nice. The social media marketing talk show, pretty good. They basically is one show a week where they tell you everything that Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, new features.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Like they did. Yeah, or what they want to do, and that's interesting. So
a little bit of insight into social media.
Inspires, and the
apps.
Same team is doing how they call it, the Social Media Examiner is the company. They also have social media marketing. Michael Stelzner, good stuff, but it has a lot to do with the fact that we're running campaigns here, social media campaigns for clients. Because we have a little pro audio advertising agency that some people know about, some people don't. We, of course, use ads to promote our own products and even just content we push out as ads.
And I know the Facebook ad manager changes like every 2 weeks or so. They add new features.
They experiment a lot. They give you a feature for a week and then see
Are they giving you insight into that? Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
They say some people have seen this feature.
Okay.
We haven't seen it rolled out everywhere, but maybe. And then you never hear about it again. So they just tried it.
Like on a small
I heard this thing that if you're a development engineer in Facebook, you can just experiment. It's a very quick approval process. I don't even know if I think there's not even an approval process. You can just test a feature on 100,000 people.
Okay.
And then report to your boss whether you think it makes sense or not.
Interesting, yeah. So you're giving like 100,000 random people access to a new feature.
Some feature, like I don't know.
Whatever. Okay, cool.
Message, life stories or whatever. See if they use it.
Nice.
No, they don't. Okay, let's take it away.
Not bad.
Let's go further. And David will have the job to list all these then.
Yep.
But I can give him my phone, or he has all my stuff anyway on all the computers here. Tape Op, you're familiar, you're aware they have a podcast.
Okay.
Haven't listened to it too much, but then I always see them on my timeline Facebook because I put them on priority.
Yeah.
There was a Michael Brower podcast.
Cool.
I think on Tape Op, definitely worth for the audio person. Mark Zuckerberg just started a podcast, Tech and Society.
Okay.
I've started to listen to one of them. Tech and Journalism. Oh yeah, Mark Zuckerberg on his podcast, Tech and Journalism with Matthias Döpfner of Axel Springer.
That's the biggest German.
Interesting. That's the biggest German media conglomerate.
Yeah.
Bild
Nice
Zeitung.
way to put it.
Bild
Yeah.
Zeitung, but Bild Zeitung is actually one of the smaller things. They have all these used cars and all these portals for Kleinanzeigen and
Oh yeah,
stuff.
yeah, okay.
For how you call
Mobile.de
it?
and
What would
stuff.
it be in America?
Like Craigslist.
Like Craigslist,
Craigslist.
eBay. Do they have eBay Kleinanzeigen in America? eBay.
That's some.
I think that's
eBay
Craigslist.
Classifieds.
Yeah.
It's called eBay Classifieds. So Mark Zuckerberg is doing his own podcast. That's interesting. I just mentioned this one because David mentioned her, Sarah Dietschy. She's a YouTuber, has a podcast, That Creative Life. It's, I don't know. It's all right. It's one of those when I run out of The Art of Paid Traffic. Pretty good. Advertising,
Sure.
online advertising.
It's in the name.
He's really good. Only thing I don't like is his stupid intro.
But you can skip it.
I'll play it.
Let's go.
Listen to this stupid intro.
What you get when you combine simplified digital marketing, proven ROI strategies, and Metallica blasting from his headphones, you get Rick Mulren's course. So strap in.
So for me, that's like
Okay.
By the end of the third
Damn,
quarter,
okay,
which
yeah.
is
That's a good
September
trick.
30th.
I have even,
So-
and we get to this, I have even measured how long the adverts are on Tim Ferriss' podcast. And then I go, listening. So
So you have a fixed amount of tabs to skip through.
yes. It's like, I don't know, advertising at podcasts. I mean, don't overdo it. If it's a quick one, I'm fine with it. But Tim Ferriss, literally 4 minutes.
Oh wow.
And he recently posted on Facebook, hey guys, something like, hey guys, I want to try for half a year or something to completely remove any advertisements from my podcast to see whether the macro brand value I get from not doing advertisements is greater than this stupid money I don't need because I have enough money
That's. But that's interesting. Yeah.
anyway. Yeah, so he gets it. He's Tim Ferriss. I tell you guys, he's such a brilliant dude. Not only his book, which is kind of getting old now, the 4-Hour Work Week, very much inspired me, and his other books a bit,
But you work
a bit
like
too thick for me.
You work more than 4 hours a week.
Yeah, and it's not about working 4 hours
Yeah,
a week. Is running a whole company into 4 hours. So it's about maximizing what you do with your time. And he's doing some weird stuff like, oh, let's try mixing LSD with this and that and check out if a small dose maybe helps. What happens?
Wait,
and
what?
I do a TV series about it.
Okay.
This sort of he does weird stuff. I hope he will survive it all. He did an important blog about the time when he wanted to kill himself.
Okay.
I think that helped a lot of people to not kill themselves. So he's like going to the edge, is always entertaining, classy guy, and he has his podcast.
Not afraid of doing anything.
Yeah, we haven't come across it yet, but we will. What else? Yeah, here's the Gary Vee audio experience. Every day a new episode, which is just great because
Yeah.
you leave the house and you know there's a new episode. What else? The Joe Rogan Experience is pretty famous. I think it's one of the biggest podcasts in America. I haven't listened to many. The stuff is good. The one with the Tesla dude,
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Musk, was pretty good. The one where Elon Musk put.
Oh yeah.
That's
I watched a couple of episodes on YouTube, I guess.
Yeah. He is good, definitely. But I don't know, somehow, if something is too famous and mainstream, I'm like, I don't want to feed myself with the same stuff as everybody. I don't know, that's for me, with music and everything, I shy away from stuff that's like...
I think the how do we call it, the middle class people, like not the super rich like Elon Musk, but but the middle ones are like more interesting because you can relate to them more, and the value is
Elon Musk
greater.
I find to be an interesting guy. Actually.
Yeah, okay, he's
So
he's
Joe
interesting
Rogan
anyway.
definitely. It's just I don't know. I start disliking people when they're getting too big and too famous. I lose interest. Let's put it this way. The Kevin Rose show. I have to say, this guy, I don't care what he talks about. It's always fascinates me. It's always good. He's such an educated guy, and he's from this group of people that in 2006-7, I could be completely wrong here. Tim Ferriss, Kevin Rose, Gary Vaynerchuk, people who invested in Facebook early. No idea how much money they made. I think Kevin Rose made a shitload. He's only doing what he loves, and that includes his podcast. They talk about technology. He's interesting guests. Last one he had was Never Split the Difference, Master Negotiation with ex-FBI Chris Voss. It was a guy who worked in hostage negotiation and stuff. But then goes into how he negotiated buying his Toyota. So Kevin Rose, what's the show called? The Kevin Rose Show, top show.
Nice.
Now here's the Mastering Show, which is probably one by Ian Shepherd.
Yeah.
Good show.
It's good. It's solid. It's solid advice.
Definitely.
Yeah. Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I've never had He never said anything I didn't know. But sometimes it's important to get reminded about certain things.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like you're aware of the whole big picture, but there's a small detail you might miss out on, and then.
So definitely, recommended the Mastering Show. What else?
How long is this list? What? It's insane.
The Tim Ferriss Show, I talked about it.
Okay.
It's just called The Tim Ferriss Show. Episode 1, Kevin Rose. That's one thing I hate about the Apple app, is that when you go through the shows and you go into a show, the list starts with the first show, the oldest show. And I've listened to all of these, so
and you cannot invert it.
I cannot, I don't know. Tell me if I can, then I'll do it. That's why I think I will switch to Spotify. And then what I do is... shit.
And if you got a new iPhone with...
And then at the bottom of it, you get available episodes. And then you have it inverted.
Okay.
So they should just put the available shows on top. I don't know. I think Apple Podcasts is pretty messed up, the app. It's pretty
like
almost as stupid as
the inventor of podcast messed
iTunes.
up the app. Yeah, that's.
Here's one that I don't know. People can argue about the Tony Robbins podcast. Are you aware of Tony Robbins?
No.
He's like the master of speaking in front of 30,000 people, charging everybody $2,000 and bringing millions home every time. He's the master motivator guy. He has some solid business tips. But I know, especially...
Charge 2,000 for...
Especially in America, he causes some controversy, I would say. So, and here's...
But that's with all
the Ultimate Entrepreneur with Jay Abraham. I'm not sure how big he must be a big consultant. This is how he's branding himself. Older guy, 65 maybe.
At first, I was thinking you talk about J.J. Abrams.
No, he's called Jay Abraham.
Okay.
I like this show. A lot of interesting tactics for marketing, sales. He's out of advertising as well. So, what else?
I'm so fascinated how this list goes on and on.
No. We're through it.
No, what?
That's it.
That's it?
Everything has an end but the
Okay.
sausage. It's a German saying.
Yeah. All right.
All right. I would love to hear in the comments, not on Instagram, it don't make sense. DM me your podcast tips. What are you listening to?
And maybe on Facebook we put like your maybe top 10 in the comments.
We'll see.
I'll figure it out.
He
Yeah.
will figure it out. We also want to do a blog article with the list.
Nice.
And yeah, that's it.
Then I will re-watch the VOD and
And this show will go on every platform. We're live on Facebook. It will go on YouTube, podcast, everywhere.
cool.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, like. Let us know what you think, and I'll see you tomorrow or hear you tomorrow.
Bye.